In all my years on the water, spearfishing, sailing, big game fishing, I have never fished for bass. Then one day, out of the blue, a box arrived from Amazon. It was long and narrow. There was no return address. There was no invoice. The box was empty except for one thing: a St. Croix tournament, medium heavy fast bass rod. It was around the time of my birthday, so I got to thank whoever sent it to me. Of course, $150 later, reel, line, lures, etc. And I was out on the pond by my house where I caught my first bass. And let me just say, I hooked the bass, but in reality, the bass hooked me. This project all started off with the idea of getting something small and plastic to float around in the local ponds to fish for bass. Then I found the Tiny Boat Nation channel on YouTube. And well, the rest is history. My first challenge was where to build and store my soon-to-be bass boat. My garage is packed with the tools and equipment, but there's just no room to put a boat in there. Now, the yard on the side of my house was not being used, so I removed my old gates, extended the fence 20 feet along the side of the house, and installed new double gates. Now in Florida, it rains almost every day in the summer, and my oak tree was dumping leaves on the boat. So a heavy-duty 12x16 tarp, rope, and PVC pipe allowed an awning to be installed. It is very low profile and so far has not attracted the attention of the Homeowners Association. Stainless steel eye bolts and lead anchors set into the block wall of my house has worked great. There were two final steps needed before I could actually begin work on the boat. Pavers were set so that the boat would roll easily in and out. Mulch would help keep the mud under control. The real issue, though, is that my yard slopes to the front, and between the slope and the way the Tracker 1542 hull was shaped, the boat would not drain correctly from any rainwater or water that got into the boat. So I took 4-inch and 3-inch PVC Schedule 40 pipe and created a recessed lift stand for the boat. This allows the tongue of the trailer to be lifted high enough to get any water that is collected in the boat to flow to the rear bilge area. Now the work could begin. Well, sort of. First, plans would have to be made, edited, and then changed again. Every inch of material was accounted for and the weight calculated. These Jonboats have a weight capacity, and it's not very much. And my own personal weight consumes a disproportionate percentage of the capacity of the boat. Thus, I wanted to keep all of the conversion to about 200 pounds of materials. I would need to have the capacity for the motor, 2 batteries, and the trolling motor. Now, a lot of tiny boat builders include a live well. The Tracker 1542 has a small one in the midship seat. I decided to remove it. Water weighs about 8 pounds per gallon, or 63 pounds per cubic foot. Do the math. Professional bass boats have live wells of about 30 gallons, which would weigh 240 pounds just in the water. A decent 15-gallon live well would weigh 120 pounds. At those weights, my Jonboat would have become a one-person boat. Since I get lonely, I decided to ditch the live well and take a friend fishing. First, we cut the top out of the mid-seat, and using a piece of the 16-gauge aluminum from that top, we created a patch to cover the 1-inch hole under the live well. Marine-grade silicone adhesive and stainless steel bolts with safety nuts made a watertight seal. Later, we would add 1 inch of pink EPS foam between the ribs, which would cover the bolts and the patch. Almost the entire boat was built using battery-powered hand tools. The only exception was the pneumatic rivet gun, a must on a project like this. Hundreds and hundreds, perhaps even 1,000 rivets would have to be set. Doing it by hand would have been very painful. I ran a 100-foot air line for my garage air compressor, and 6 months later I'm still using that air line to help clean and maintain my boat. We decided to start at the stern and work our way forward. You notice I said we? On a project like this, you have to enlist your friends, or it just seems like it'll never get done. The boat would be framed from 1/16 aluminum angle. I used 1.5 and 1 inch angle to do the framing. I would use some 3/4 inch for hatch bracing and 1/2 inch for hatch strip edges. The decking, bulkheads, and lockers would be made from 1/4 inch and 1/8 inch composite signboard that is used in the sign industry. The signboard has a PVC core and is clad on both sides with thin aluminum that has a gloss white finish. The U.S. Coast Guard requires boats under 16 feet in length to have sufficient flotation so that they are unsinkable. Additionally, a flooded boat is required to float level in the water. The Tracker Jonboat has flotation under the seats and in 2 small compartments at the stern. Since I am adding an electric start motor, I resisted the temptation to hollow out the rear seats for storage lockers. Instead, I left all 3 compartments intact. I used 1.5 inch aluminum angle to do the basic framing at the stern. Placing the batteries forward in the boat would help distribute weight, but I would need to run 4-gauge wires aft for the electric start motor. A 1.5 inch PVC pipe would be used as a conduit to bring the boat motor wires up from the bilge area to the bus bars mounted on top of one of the aft flotation chambers. The main power cables would be run inside the side bracing of the boat. Well, that does it for this episode. In the next episode, we'll be addressing how we placed the decking on the back and did the finish work.